All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share a part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Through the gifts of technology, we also gather virtually to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Welcome to all those who are joining us in this way today. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls,
I'm David Yackel, a member of All Souls. I echo the welcome stated in the video for both those here and those watching online. When we say welcome here at All Souls UU Church, we welcome you with all the identities you hold, your fullness as a person. You are welcome here. We hope that you will bring your whole self to this time together. We welcome those who have long been a part of our community and those here for the first time. Please extend this welcome through conversations with new faces after the service. It may be the beginning of a long, warm relationship. Let our service begin.
Again, good morning. As Reverend Aaron has reminded us during the past several Sundays, Advent is a word that means something is coming, is on the way, and getting closer. How many of us are looking forward to the arrival of Christmas? Yes, I am. I always enjoy knowing that Christmas is almost here. The Advent season is a time of waiting, of knowing that the holidays will be soon. Some say that the tradition of the Advent wreath first started long ago at an orphanage in Germany to help the children tell how many weeks were left until Christmas would arrive. At its heart, Advent is a season of longing. It invites us to acknowledge the hunger in our hearts that this special time might help to satisfy. It reminds us that it is very human to want something and to hope for it and to wait eagerly for it to come, as people have often waited for good news of freedom and of justice for everybody. So the idea is that each Sunday of the month before Christmas, we light one more light, and on the Sunday when they all are lighted, you will know that Christmas will come that week after only a few more days. In fact, next Sunday will be the 25th Christmas Day itself. So while we are waiting for Solstice night, which will be this Wednesday, December 21st, the shortest day of the year and the longest night, which was why people originally started having winter Yuletide festivals. And while we are waiting for Christmas Day and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa to arrive, I invite you to think about your longings and your hopes. What do you want these holidays to mean to you? What is your heart hungry for? We wait for the coming of Christmas in many different ways. Innocently, as little children look forward to gifts and sparkling decorations, we long for beauty and simple joys. Wearily, as those who struggle for justice feel the irony of the season, We long to be in right relation and to be safe. We long for peace on earth. And lonely as those who are isolated yearn for companionship and warmth, we long to be connected with the earth and in our families and communities. We wait generously as those who offer gifts despite their own needs. We long to be filled full and to give joy to others. Hopefully, as those who celebrate the light in the season of darkness, we long for the stars and candles and dreams that will guide us to new possibilities. May the deepest longings of our hearts lead us to wonder and to grow, and may the spirit of this season fill us with joy and hope and peace. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Sean, and I will be lighting the chalice for the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all.
Please join us as we and stand as you are able for the affirmation of our covenant, and then remain standing as we sing Song 226, People Look East. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our commitment to human fellowship means that we are called upon to be glad with those who rejoice and to weep with those who mourn. Thus, we set aside this time in our gathering to share with one another the joys and concerns which are now shaping our lives. May the beauty and sweetness of these brief flowers remind us to hold one another in the bonds of sympathy, encouragement, and care. Before I invite you forward to share at the microphone what is on your heart today, I will remind you that we are currently streaming online. So after those who are happy to share while the cameras are on, we will then take a moment to turn the cameras off for anyone who would like to share and have that not shared with YouTube. So I invite you forward.
Well, I'm Don Dickey. I'm very fortunate in many ways. I've stayed healthy during the pandemic, and I've recently had my older sister move here from Michigan, where she was a German professor for 52 years. And you think I didn't get my English corrected a time or two during that period? Guess again. Anyway, it's a good thing to be thankful for.
I have mostly a joy with a little bit of concern. Tori has been in pain since mid-October. We've discovered its gallbladder, and this Tuesday we're saying goodbye to the gallbladder.
I'd like to say that I'm really grateful for my sister and my mom and everybody that's helped me through the pandemic and everything that's been happening.
Me too.
I'm thankful that Scott has finished his cancer treatments and he's doing very well. His numbers don't allow him to be with us quite yet. He's still healing, and it's a great reminder of us all to take care of ourselves and take care of each other, and remind us that if you're not feeling well, we are online, and you can watch it online. So the choir has a covenant that we will mask if we don't feel good, and I just remind us all to take care of ourselves, and because we don't know who's sitting around us who is at risk. And so thank you all for your support during Scott's illness, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
My joy is our religious education program. I was here yesterday and saw all the wonderful construction of these gingerbread houses that are amazing. We have, and we can all enjoy it in the lobby today, so that is my joy. Thank you, Melanie. And the young people.
Good morning. My joy is that this coming week will be, as far as I know, my last week of 6-hour-a-day rehab at Ability KC, which is a wonderful organization, and I give gratitude for all the skilled and knowledgeable people there who've been helping me in my recovery.
Hello again. Our joy is that we have been away from All Souls for a pretty long time because of the pandemic, and super happy to be back and see old faces and be a part of a really enlightening service. And we're also going to take a trip next week to go see family that we have not seen in a very long time. What's your joy? You'd like to? Are you shy? Okay. Thank you.
My name is Floy Williams. I have good news and bad news and good news. The good news first is that I have a month-old great-grandson. The bad news is that he was in the hospital for a week with that new disease, or new to me, RSV. And the good news is that he's back home now and doing well. Oops, I gotta leave this, don't I?
So I will ask our wonderful tech team to turn off the cameras in case there is anyone who would prefer to share with the cameras off. Since it doesn't look like we have anyone, we can turn the cameras back on. And I place this final flower for all of the outreachings of the Spirit that abide unspoken in our hearts. And I will invite you to read aloud the congregational response. If, as Herod, we fill our lives with things, lives of action, when will we have the time to make the long, slow journey over the burning desert, as did the Magi, or sit and watch the stars, as did the shepherds, or brood over the coming of the child, as did Mary? For each one of us, there is a desert to travel, a star to discover, and a being within ourselves to bring to life.
Please join us in our song for our children for they to go to their classes.
Go now in peace, may love guide all your ways. Beauty be the blessing of your nights and days. Truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds. Faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
It is said by a number of cultural observers that the Victorian author and social critic Charles Dickens essentially created Christmas as we know it today. Although his beloved classic little novel, A Christmas Carol, was written more or less offhand to produce some quick income, Dickens' vision of Christmas as a family-centered celebration with inherent moral implications captured the popular imagination both in Britain and America. As a descendant of the pagan Yule solstice observances and the Roman Saturnalia cult, the Christmas holiday had a long history of raucous and indulgent customs that would not have appealed to the straight-laced Victorian elite any more than they did to the English Puritans or the American Pilgrim colonists who endeavored to ban Christmas altogether. Hints of these more bacchanalian customs can be found in the demands and veiled threats of many of the wassailing carols, in which partially inebriated bands are clearly out roaming from house to house, calling for food and drink in return for wishes of good fortune in the new year. Take, for example, the orchard, which stands as a kind of middle ground in between humanity's earliest perception of nature as wilderness, a frightening, overwhelming, and dangerous force in which people were always at the mercy of predators and the weather and the chances of the hunt, and our modern alienation from nature, where most food comes wrapped in plastic at the store, and central heating and paved roads separate us from the feel of the seasons and the earth beneath our feet. Once upon a time, the custom of wassail in the orchard celebrated the partnership between nature and humanity, honoring the role of each so that both human work and intention and the creative natural powers of the earth were recognized, and the fruitfulness of their mutual cooperation was appreciated. The earliest tradition of wassailing first arose among farming communities, particularly in the orchards of southern Britain. There, in the 14 and 1500s, the arrival of the solstice and the season of drinking wassail was a time to bless the fruit trees and thank them for their contribution to the year's crops, to drive away any evil spirits that might want to take up residence in them, and to encourage them to bear generously in the coming season. So groups of singers and merrymakers would wander from one orchard to the next, singing and praising the trees. In some places, either a young woman would be crowned wassail queen, or a young boy would be chosen for the role of being lifted into one of the trees, or several of them, to hang a fragment of the wassail toast from the branches as a token of appreciation to the trees. I'm guessing that it probably became a rather rowdy party there in the orchards, with everyone singing and drinking hot beer to keep out the cold. But isn't it a lovely idea that when you are enjoying the cider and the fragrant roasted apples at the holiday season, you might take time to go out and say thank you to the trees? There is something appealing about a culture that saw a relationship with even the plants that helped to feed them and give them pleasure. Let's consider for a moment, while we are invited to offer a gift this morning in support of our spiritual home, the forces of nature to which we might express gratitude.
Hi, I'm going to ride on Dickens' coattails this morning as well. While I don't think any of us are Scrooge, we can find inspiration in his story. Picture your Christmas season, what you will eat, where you will go, the signs of Christmas that you will see when driving down the street or when you are shopping. The tree behind me, the decorations in the lobby, the smell of gingerbread houses out there. Now think of all the Christmases you have had, maybe only 20, maybe 90, probably something in between. You may have memories that you love, or perhaps you have some not so pleasant memories. Next, picture all the past Christmases of this church. There have been 155 of them. This will be my 20th Christmas here. We can't know the details of what the members of this church did on Christmas, before we joined, but we can imagine that they shared goodwill along the way with those that needed it. Maybe money or food, but more often inspiration when life was hard. Just that simple reminder that there are good people doing good things. Sometimes church members become a chosen family around the holidays when we don't have any relatives nearby, or maybe none at all. I imagine that these things have been true since our inception. I also know that social justice work like feeding the food insecure has been a part of our moral fabric for our entire existence. I am sure that has been a part of our Christmas past. Now picture again Christmas present here at All Souls. Having taken a moment to connect to our past, you can feel it come to life a bit more. You can feel our roots in our traditions. You can start to see how today connects to yesteryear. If you are bah humbug, while you picture it, you might not feel so great about it. If you are already feeling positive, you might be enjoying our current Christmas just like the Cratchits did in the dream of Scrooge. I'm sure you have figured out what I want you to do next. Picture Christmas future. A picture of what it will be if nothing changed the current momentum that we have. A good Christmas. Some new folks will join us, some will leave. We will continue to help the food insecure as we can and fight for social justice. We will plod along our path. There is nothing wrong with that. But when Scrooge woke up from his third dream and realized it was Christmas Day, I believe that he realized he had power, that with a change of attitude, he could change so much more for those around him and incidentally himself. With money, yes, but also with his kindness and involvement in the lives of the Cratchit children and their parents. You have that same power. How do you want to use it? Scrooge gave money to the charity he had refused just the day before. He bought a holiday meal for the Cratchits. He gave his employees fair wages. He offered his time as mentor to Tiny Tim. This change was more dramatic for Scrooge than it might be for us. He had the assistance of 3 ghosts. He got to see the future in a dream that felt so real that he experienced it. He felt it viscerally. Alas, I do not have the power to make you feel that, but that is what faith is, my definition anyway. If I engage with life and share my time, talent, and treasure, I will make a difference for all those around me. And as a bonus, I feel better because of it. Do you have that faith? Faith that you have the power to make this world a better place, this church a better place. Tiny Tim said, God bless us, everyone. And Aesop once said, the gods help them that help themselves. While the offering is being taken this morning, please join Darrington and Anthony in singing Deck the Halls. The lyrics will be on the screen. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Season to be jolly, la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us. La 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus. La 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 la. Follow me in merry measure. Fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure. La 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, fa la 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 Fa la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together. We la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather. La 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 la.
Please join me in the dedication of our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
This is the first of two readings from A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It is Christmas Eve, and no matter, old Scrooge is at work in his counting house. Then a cheerful voice cried out, "Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" That was Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation that he had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" The nephew had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost that he was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas! What right have you to be merry? What goodness reason can you think to be merry? You're poor enough." "Come then," returned the nephew, "what right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be remorse? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said "Bah!" again, and followed it up with "Humbug." "Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be?" returned the uncle, "when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas! Out upon Merry Christmas! What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older but not an hour richer, a time of balancing your books and having every item in them through a round dozen of months presented dead against you? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. He should." "Uncle," pleaded the nephew. "Nephew," returned the uncle sternly, "keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine." "Keep it," retorted Scrooge's nephew, but you don't keep it." "Let me leave it alone then," said Scrooge. "Much good may it do you. Much good it has ever done you." The nephew paused for a moment. "There are many things from which I might have derived good, but which I have not profited from, I dare say, Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time when it has come around, apart from the veneration due to its sacred name and origin. If anything belonging to it can be apart from that, it is a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, the only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
It was a long night, if it were only a night, but Scrooge had his doubts of this, because the Christmas holidays appeared to be condensed into the space of time they passed together. It was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older. Scrooge had observed this change, but never spoke of it until they left a children's 12th night party when, looking at the spirit as they stood together in an open place, he noticed that its hair was gray. "Are spirits' lives so short?" asked Scrooge. "My life upon this globe is very brief," replied the ghost. "It ends tonight." "Tonight?" cried Scrooge. "Tonight, at midnight. Hark, the time is drawing near." The chimes were ringing the 11:15 at that moment. "Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask," said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe. "But I see something strange and not belonging to yourself, protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?" "It might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it," was the spirit's sorrowful reply. "Look here." From the folds of its massive robe, it brought two children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of its garment. "Oh, man, look here, look down there," claimed the ghost. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate in their humility, where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints. A stale and shriveled hand, that of age, had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade through all the mysteries of wonderful creation has monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge started back, appalled. Having them shown to him in this way, he tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. "Spirit, are they yours?" Scrooge could say no more. "They are man's," said the spirit, looking down upon them, "and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both and all of their degree, but most of all, beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased." "Deny it," cried the spirit, stretching out its hand toward the city. "Slander those who tell ye it. Admit it for your factious purposes and make it worse. And bide the end." "Have they no refuge or resource?" cried Scrooge. "Are there no prisons?" said the spirit, turning on him for the last time with his own words. "Are there no workhouses?" And the bell struck 12.
It is not too much to say that Charles Dickens invented the contemporary meaning of Christmas, or at least gave the most memorable narrative form to that constellation of seasonal images and values. The Victorian urban focus on family, charity, reverence, generosity, and sentiment was an innovation, a concerted effort to rescue Christmas from a more boisterous legacy that our own Puritan ancestors wanted no part of. Dickens, himself a Unitarian, helped to both civilize and secularize Christmas. Although Scrooge does attend a church service on his way to his nephew's house on the first morning of his new life, if you blink, you could easily miss the one sentence that tells us this. It is wholly incidental to his Reformation. The medieval festival that was being thus rehabilitated was a far more raucous proposition, characterized by drunkenness, overeating, gambling, rowdy theatrical productions, irreverent singing and dancing in church, and various pagan agricultural customs such as the wassail tradition. It is not hard to understand why both English and New World Puritan communities sought to ban its observance, so disruptive was it of public order. While we today may deplore the extent to which the holiday season has come to be commercialized in our current setting, today's notions of Christmas still owe far more to the 19th century than to anything earlier. Dickens and his contemporaries did much to privatize Christmas, particularly through elaborating the myth of Santa Claus, turning it into a child-focused, family-centered observance during which the lines between social classes remained intact. The older traditions were significantly more public and often involved subverting or at least challenging the distinctions that normally separated rich and poor. It is worth noting in this context that while Scrooge enters the Cratchit household as an invisible, ghostly observer, he never goes there in his actual person. On Christmas Day, he has the prized turkey delivered to the Cratchit family and dines properly with his own relations and social equals. I suspect that the emerging cities of the Industrial Revolution could not tolerate the excesses and eccentricities that had once enabled the rebalancing of civic power as part of the point of Yuletide in post-feudal farming communities. The traditional wassailing songs speak to this redistributive economic impulse, clearly showing the faint sense of menace that lies behind the covert appeal to the goodwill and good fortune of a prosperous household or orchard owners. The cheerful well wishes of the sentiment, "God bless you and send you a happy new year," could easily take on a sarcastic and threatening tone if the request for food and drink were to be denied. As anyone who has ever been told to have a nice day by a surly panhandler can testify. Which leads me to wonder about the intersection between Christmas and justice. Is Christmas, as constructed by Victorian sentiment and 20th century advertising, merely an exercise in privilege? This question takes on some urgency as this year's holidays unfold in the shadow of ongoing social unrest and violence, amidst a growing awareness of just how racially stratified American society still is, despite many past victories and ongoing struggles for equality. My guess, and I say this because it is at some level an impulse in my own reaction, my guess is that the dominant culture is going to say to itself something like this: it's too bad about the shootings at Club Q in Colorado Springs, at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, or in a Walmart store in Chesapeake, Virginia. We acknowledge that the Gun Violence Archive has counted at least 609 mass shootings through November in this year. It's shocking and something ought to be done. But we have relatives coming to town and the children's concert, and there are 2 boxes of cards that aren't even in the mail yet, and can we please just take this up after the holidays? Which is exactly what invisible white and wealth privilege always is the ability to set such matters aside when they are inconvenient or make us uncomfortable and not deal with it unless we choose to. And who would choose to be made uncomfortable about this kind of stuff at Christmas time, which is supposed to be about I'll be home for Christmas and goodwill to men and sleep in heavenly peace and all that? So here's what I want to suggest this morning. First, I want to consider whether we might be well advised to take the celebration of Kwanzaa with greater seriousness this year, and I'll tell you why presently. Second, I want to explore the pre-Victorian, pre-Dickens approach to Christmas including the nativity story itself, to see if there might be any clues about how to do this season from a place of awareness rather than from blind privilege. For the most part, you and I don't have any choice about the advantages that accrue to our skin color, our ethnicity, our gender, our age. No one can put those privileges aside even if we really wanted to. What each of us has a choice about is the not seeing, the will to be ignorant, to set the understanding about privilege aside, and retreat into the normative culture as a safe and comfortable space. That's how we have been taught to operate as a default position. It takes an act of will, a spiritual discipline, if you will, to stay with the awareness that injustice and oppression are all around us all the time, shaping the lived experience of others, even when I have availed myself of the option not to pay attention. Maybe, just maybe, if we got through to the true heart of Christmas, it would turn out to have something to do with precisely this, with how to live as a witness to oppression, privilege, and the vision of another possibility. Or not. I'm thinking that it might have been the dominant culture of impenetrable comfort and joy that drove Professor Ron Karenga in 1966 to propose a new holiday celebrating the African roots of Black Americans, focused on the shared experiences and values of their community. In that context, the realities of injustice, suffering, and unfulfilled promise would be foundational to the meaning of the event, instead of being extraneous and largely invisible to the popular symbolism of Christmas. Kwanzaa indeed lifts up the family, but not primarily as the locus of affection, comfort, and nostalgia. Rather, Kwanzaa emphasizes the family as a three-dimensional nexus where the ancestors and what is owed to the past, and the children whose future well-being is to be prepared in the present, and the larger community of mutual concern in which the family is set, all converge. Kwanzaa stakes its claim not so much in memory as in aspiration. What we shall become as individuals and as a society is a debt to the sacrifices that were made on our behalf by those who came before. It would take more than a ceramic figurine of Santa with black features to make the essence of a white Christmas genuinely meaningful to the members of a community which too often has had good reason not to sleep in heavenly peace. If those of us who cannot help but represent the dominant culture want to try to spend the holidays with our eyes open, we could start by reverently and respectfully engaging Kwanzaa as something more than a quaint cultural oddity. On the other hand, Christmas itself might have more to offer us if we probe beyond the bland contemporary surface. For instance, what could be less subversive than Christmas carols? Well, let me tell you. As you may know, the word carol originally signified a dance that was accompanied by group singing. And one of the reasons that we have the custom of singing Christmas carols in the street was that once upon a time, the dancing often became so vigorous and heedless that worried priests banned it from within the church building. The 12 days of Christmas were once a time when the hardest working, poorest, and least powerful members of society expected to have leisure, as well as access for a few days to adequate food and to alcohol, in some part provided by those who had greater resources and thus presumably something to spare. In many parts of France and Germany and some places in England, a mock bishop, often a pre-teenage boy, would be appointed for a day or two, who had the power to solemnize temporary marriages, appoint unpopular magistrates to onerous tasks, pardon petty criminals, and in other ways subvert the normal rule of law. Wassail is the name of a kind of song and a kind of drink as well as a sort of social event, but most of all it is a toast that goes back to the days of ancient Britain. In those olden days, the process of brewing, of producing wines and beers or ales and other fermented beverages, was an uncertain art form. You never knew exactly what you were going to get at the end of the process or exactly what it would taste like. Quite often, the resulting beverages were more bitter or sour than tasty, and they often contained sediment floating in them. One way to help these problems was to float a piece of toasted bread in the beer or wine cup, partly to trap the particulates and partly to alleviate the sourness. The last person to drink from the shared cup would consume this saturated bread with an acknowledgement to the host or another important person, either present or absent. The phrase was hail comes from Old English, meaning be healthy or good health to you. And the traditional reply was drink hail, meaning drink health, or may this drink give you health. In its later urban form, the practice of wassailing was a kind of Yuletime version of trick-or-treating at Halloween, in which groups of friends would go from door to door in the wealthier neighborhoods of the city, hoping that the residents would be having parties, or at least sharing a bowl of wassail. By offering a song and blessings to the family and guests, or failing that, a veiled threat of mischief, the visitors would hope to inspire an invitation to partake of some of the warm beer and apple beverage or other holiday treats. Roving bands of merrymakers roamed around the towns, drinking, begging for food, ale, and coins, and causing everything from minor vandalism to real damage. What they most consistently did was to make the established power structure of both the church and the state uncomfortable by making its social privilege visible and vulnerable. It's human nature to be made uncomfortable whenever the privileges we have been used to are threatened, even when we may consciously want to try not to affirm or protect those invisible advantages. It isn't easy even to learn to see them. It takes practice and the willingness to tolerate that discomfort. But here's the thing. It seems to me that if you go all the way back to the story that is the narrative basis for what Christmas allegedly is all about, you find the announcement of exactly that kind of disruptive awareness, about the arrival of a child whose destiny was to turn the world upside down. You have an unmarried mother, a family of refugees on the run from the empire's law. You have people so unprivileged that they are relegated to the place where the animals live. And yet this birth disturbs the heavens, empowers common shepherds, draws distinguished scholars far from their homes, and enrages a king. If we took Christmas seriously on its own terms, we would recognize that it celebrates the discomfort of having our habitual ways of looking at the world challenged, because that's the only way we grow and the only way that anything new ever happens in the human story. I believe that this is actually what we still want after all these centuries, that ancient undying hope for peace on earth and mutual goodwill among all people, even if it means being transformed in ways that are hard to imagine and harder still to practice, even if it means disrupting the culture we are used to and being made uncomfortable by the rightful anger of the oppressed and the fear of the privileged and the ignorance of the complicit and the complacent, as well as by our own internalized shame. This is the promise of Christmas, that something glorious waits for us on the other side of our struggle, that each night a child is born, however humble and whatever color, is a holy night, that however weary we may be of our own flaws and the stubbornness of others, change can still come to fill us again with hope and greater compassion and more inclusive love. This season is not irrelevant to the turmoil of our times, just one in a series of tragic upheavals that echo in cities all over our nation, not unless we make it trivial by our own failure to see the connections. To be a grown-up at Christmas is to recognize not only that Santa has no hands other than ours, but also that the vision of peace and goodwill on earth calls us not just to personal generosity, but to awaken to the reality of systemic privilege embedded in our culture. The voices of those long ago wassailers join with the chorus of protesters today, challenging the powerful and the comfortable, like Ebenezer Scrooge, to acknowledge a reality beyond what they have yet known. God bless you, says the wassailing songs, and that seems harmless enough, but think about it. What if we were to find ourselves blessed with the power to change the world, to shift the course of history, and bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice? What if we were suddenly blessed with eyes to see the full suffering of our siblings and all the subtle tendrils of wealth and white-skin privilege that hold that system in place? Can we truly dare to ask that kind of blessing upon ourselves and each other? Could we bear it? Christmas at its best invites the human spirit to try, to be not afraid, for behold, these would be tidings of discomfort, yes, and change, but also perhaps ultimately of great joy, of more abundant life for all people. Christmas whispers that the law of love and the gospel of peace finally offer us not just the momentary discomfort of self-awareness, but the path toward wholeness and redeemed community, which is where we have always wanted to go. Christmas announces that we owe each other something, whether or not we are prepared to admit it, and asks us to bless each other so that we might awaken to the realm of justice and compassion and peace that is found only within and among us whenever we are willing to allow it. Christmas turns us not away from the tragedies of our times, but towards them, for it is there that prophetic vision must hold out its age-old promise, there that some new possibility must come to birth, there that the angels, if they are to be heard at all, must sing. Christmas is coming, my friends. May God bless us, every one. So let's sing.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ the Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from evil's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. In Bethlehem in Israel this blessed babe was born, and laid within a manger upon this blessed morn. There with his mother Mary among the beasts forlorn. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Fear not, then said the angel, let nothing you affright. This day is born a Savior to bring us hope and light, to free all those who learn from him, from greed and power's might. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ the Savior we celebrate today, to save us all from evil's power if we might go astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
We release this flame now and send the warmth of community and the fires of commitment forth into the world and keep them in our own minds and hearts until we shall be together again. Then let us not wait for God to send it, but together plan and work and share, so that the turning of the earth may find us stronger, wiser, more generous people, who among us shall make for one another and for our world a blessed and happy new year. Go in peace.
Down